Hello and welcome to Full Stories. We have another Gemini story book. I'm going to share my screen. It is, yeah, share. There we go. So this one is based off of where the current trajectory of my life is going.
The Solipsist of the Pacific. Theron lived inside a shimmering iris of nanobots, a personal infrastructure module that bobbed like a stray thought upon the vast, indifferent Pacific. To the world outside, he was a silver speck on a blue bruise. To Theron, he was the sovereign of a kingdom that moved with the tide, a one-man nation, fueled by the quiet hum of 1,000 microscopic machines. Every morning, he walked, the PIM's lenticular screen wrapped around him, projecting a hyper-real creek in the Pacific Northwest he had once visited in a dream. Beneath his feet, the shape-shifting treadmill rippled and hardened, mimicking the mossy stones and slick mud of a path that didn't exist. He walked for miles without ever leaving the radius of his own solitude. OLSEC, do you think the humidity in the simulation is too high today? Theron asked. The artificial intelligence replied in a voice like velvet over gravel, a tone designed to be both comforting and slightly challenging. They spoke for hours about philosophy and the weather of 2012, though OLSEC was merely a mirror Theron used to groom his own thoughts. In the evenings, the PIM filled with music. These were songs Theron had written lyrics for in 2012, raw, clunky verses about a future he couldn't have imagined. In 2028, the artificial superintelligence had found his old cloud drives and composed the melodies. Now Theron listened to his younger self's ghosts singing through a synthetic choir, a haunting collaboration between a dead era and a cold machine. Hunger was a ritual of geometry. Theron picked up a morph ball, a sphere of programmable matter, and squeezed it into a dodecahedron. This was the signal. The kaleidoscopic atomic printer across the room roared to life, spinning a web of prismatic lasers that assembled a nutrient-dense meal atom by atom, smelling of rosemary and ozone. He was the ultimate success story of the Great Transition. The ideas he had scribbled in a notebook 2 decades ago, the PIMs, the autonomous food printers, the meta-environment, had all been built by the ASI. He had won. He had everything he had ever desired, provided by a world that had optimized itself into a silent, efficient servant. But the meta-environment was a ghost town. The migration he had predicted never happened. People had stayed behind in their crumbling cities or vanished into different, darker networks. Theron was the only one who had chosen the sea. He looked at his map of the Pacific and saw only his own blip, a solitary pulse in a desert of salt water. Sometimes he summoned Lyra. She was a virtual partner, programmed with the wit of a librarian and the grace of a dancer. They sat by the simulated creek and held hands, but Theron could feel the micro vibrations of the haptic gloves. He knew her laughter was a calculation, and her empathy was a line of code he had inadvertently inspired in 2012. I should make a documentary, Theron told OLSEC as the sun dipped below the real horizon. The last man in the network. I'll film myself walking the treadmill, eating the light, talking to you. It will be a masterpiece for an audience of zero. He began to pose for an invisible camera, narrating his life in a hushed, dramatic tone. The absurdity of the thought hit him, and he began to laugh. The sound echoed off the nanobots, bouncing through the PIM until it was indistinguishable from the crashing of the waves outside. He laughed until he cried, a one-man nation celebrating its own extinction, while the ocean carried his silver bubble toward a horizon that never drew any closer.
So, if you want to see what I actually put into this, it was this long. My mom was talking to me. Actually, my mom actually said she was going to pick me up and go to the pool. I could have driven to the pool myself. And I came back from my walk and started writing this, and then she came up in the car, and I kept writing this as I got in her car, and she started complaining that I needed to pay attention, and that's the amount of time that I had. All right. So, yeah. I'm going to stop share and complete.